welcome to NEK-TV Rocks. And my guest today is Alyssa DeLaBruere, correct?
Yes.
And we're going to talk about your art. And what's different about this show today is that we're framed by your art, which is really cool.
Thank you. And hopefully a view everyone knows. You know, we kind of captured one that's kind of that classic view.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's sort of hard for me because usually you and I are chatting, or whoever's sitting there and we're chatting, but I'm finding myself being pulled, which is lovely. It's a lovely feeling, and that to me is what art should do.
Thank you very much. That's all I can hope for as an artist.
Suck me in. So you have a show coming up, which was how this got started today. But I'm actually more interested in you as an artist, but obviously we'll mention the show.
Okay,
which is going to be this month, October, and at the Belvedere, is that correct?
Yes, October 18th to the 20th.
And it's about the lake.
It's about 100 days of the lake.
Wow.
As an artist. Not 100 pieces. Obviously, this piece takes more than a day to make.
Yeah.
But 100 days of focusing my work on the lake and aspects of the lake and classic viewpoints, and also viewpoints you can only get to by kayak or from the Canadian view looking back at our town, things like that.
That is an absolutely amazing view looking back from Canada.
It is.
I was lucky enough to take one of those little plane trips at one point, and coming back was spectacular because it's a view we never see. We only see north.
Exactly.
Oh wow, I didn't realize it looked so great coming this way. So you obviously spend a lot of your time thinking about the lake.
Yes, and it's an interesting thing because I've lived on and near the lake for 30 years. And I'm a visual artist, I'm a landscape artist, I'm a teaching artist, but I also consider myself a traveling artist because I really go around the world seeking out wild natural places, and I almost feel this responsibility of recording them for history, like like artists back in the 1800s, like Thomas Moran and Ansel Adams, and people who felt they needed to capture these places before they were
destroyed.
Yeah, gone in the name of progress, so to speak. So the lake's been this thing that, we love living on the lake. We know it's this breathtaking gem of the Northeast Kingdom, but you almost take it for granted because it's always there. It took me going away for 4 years to come back to realize, oh my gosh, one of the most beautiful places in the world that needs capturing is my own backyard.
Right.
And seeing the change in it in 4 years. And, not a change for the good, unfortunately, in terms of the water and water quality.
I was going to say, what do you see having changed?
It feels like, the quality of the water, the times when you feel like you can go in the water and you can't go in the water, feeling worried about, for the first time ever, should I really go kayak today? Should the dog be able to go down to the shore today?
Right.
Those kind of things, and how that's affecting, the fish and things that live in the water.
Big time.
As well as just how we recreate with it.
Right.
So I kind of said, what can I do about that? One, I need to record this place and capture it in lots of different ways, and I became sort of obsessed with this idea. Anyone that knows me as an artist, I get an idea in my head, and whether it's a good idea or not, I run with it. And then I said, how can I use this work to kind of have everyone like me stop taking this beautiful place for granted and maybe see it with new eyes, see it through the eyes of an artist. And with my work, I've always felt like there's this trifecta I try to get people to understand, which is if you can appreciate it in a new way, it brings awareness. And if you become aware of the issues surrounding a place that now you're appreciating, that might spur you to act or take action to help protect it or support it or conserve it or whatever it needs. So that's kind of what this body of work is about. So, I've spent the last 4 months, or a little over 100 days, trying to capture it in all of its wonder, all of its moods, and all of its weather on the good days and the bad days. And
with the smoke, because this year we've had all the
exactly.
Canadian smoke.
We've had the haze, we've had the storms,
Yes.
we've had the floods.
Right.
We've had the most glorious sunrises and sunsets I've
We
ever
have.
remembered, because we've had this crazy weather that's been here.
And the debris coming in the rivers that's been picked up because of the floods.
And, you know, for better or worse, these cyanobacteria blooms that make our lake look tropical at times. You know, the
Yes.
color that you can't imagine, but then you realize it's
not good.
it's not good. It's a sickness. It's
Right.
not, you know, it's not something, but it is a visual phenomenon.
Right, and it happened very early this year, and it's continued.
Yeah,
And
I have it happening in front of my house right now
Yes,
as we speak.
it's happening everywhere right now on the lake. It's really
Yeah.
a mess.
So this body of work, it's everything. It's my sketchbooks, and it's studies, and it's large-scale oil paintings, and it's mixed media works, and it's really delicate watercolors. I'm an artist that works in a lot of different ways in a lot of different media, and different moments need to be captured in different ways.
Right.
And so it's a wide variety of work, which is really neat. And you'll be able to see into my process a little bit, because I'll have my sketchbooks there. And, you know, obviously all the originals are for sale.
Right.
I'm a professional artist, and that's how I
You
make
have
a
to
living.
eat. Yeah, sure.
But I'm also trying to bring awareness to organizations like DUMP and the Memphremagog Watershed and the work they're doing to protect
Much
the lake.
appreciated.
And so 20% of the proceeds from originals and prints that are going to be available for sale are going to go to those organizations.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. And
And
hopefully people will, if they don't know about those organizations, they need
will.
to. And
They
will.
do. We all need to, because Newport won't survive without the lake.
Exactly.
And if we don't take care of it, why on earth would we want to let something so beautiful get destroyed?
Well, and I promise you, in the last 10 years, I've spent a lot of time in Europe and out west. And I've painted in the west of Ireland, and I've painted in the Alps, and I've painted in, you know, Italy, and I've painted in national parks all over the country to bring awareness to those issues of protecting the parks. And I still challenge that there's any place in the world as beautiful as the place we live. And when you come home and you come off the access road and you see that view for the first time after a long time, it takes your breath away every single time.
It does. It's interesting, because the life you're describing is that sort of nomadic painter, which is really cool. a wandering artist, which is something that you sort of associate with folk musicians, but not so much with more traditional artists. It's great. I obviously don't know a whole lot about you, other than I understand you were an art teacher, and you decided to pack up and run away from the rat race. Yes.
I did.
Or something like that.
You know, I was a person who went to University of Vermont as a visual art and art history major. And my mom very much wanted me to go into art education, and I said, absolutely not. I don't want to be a teacher. I don't even really like kids. You know, me at 18 with all of my grand plans.
Yeah.
It only took me 4 years out of my undergrad to realize I actually really like kids. I really am passionate about teaching.
Yeah.
I love sharing about visual arts and nurturing that in other people. And I went back and got my teaching certification. I was the art teacher at UCA.
Right.
Here in Newport for years and years. And then I eventually started teaching full-time out of my own studio here in Newport, Atelier Art Studio. And with that, I was spending my summers teaching in the south of France. And I kind of got that travel bug, that nomadic, you know, maybe wanting to live the life of Paul Cézanne or Claude Monet, of being this plein air painter who's, you know, going off and capturing the wild landscape. And so I have.
It's so great. Where have you been?
Oh my goodness! So I've spent a lot of time in Europe.
Yes.
And for the last 3 years, I've been living in, based in London. But I've spent a lot of time in France and Italy and Ireland and Cornwall in the UK, all over the Caribbean, all over the U.S. I did a project for 3.5 years, which isn't finished yet. It's coming back. It's called Postcards from the Parks. And that was really my answer to how can one artist with one voice, which is my painting, and an American citizen with one vote, how can I use that voice to deal with an issue I really cared about, which is protection of public lands and national parks that have been under protection for hundreds of years, but were at risk of being deregulated.
And still are.
And still are. And so I went on wild road trips across America, and basically an easel's an amazing soapbox, because you set up an easel in a national park and you're the most popular person there, and everyone comes to talk to you, and you get to share about what you're passionate about, and you get to learn about them. And I raised thousands of dollars for National Parks Foundation and National Parks Conservancy and the Sierra Club, and people who are doing great work to protect those places. So I think I became an art activist in that moment. The nomadic traveling artist became the activist at the same time, because I realized there's a reason why painters and poets and folk singers, they're always on the front line of things.
Yes, they are.
Because they've got a powerful voice, and you've got to raise it to use it when necessary.
Social change is so much a part of your mandate. It really is.
And if I can embed anything in my students other than, find a creative outlet, whatever your form of being an artist is, it's also, as an artist, you have a responsibility, because your art has a voice and it has a message, and whatever you're passionate about, use it.
Right. Yeah, whatever form.
Exactly. And so I'm back in Newport. I've missed home. And I'm teaching a little bit. I'm not teaching as much as I was. I'm trying to find that balance between my own work and still loving teaching and offering, art classes here in Newport. So we have that creative cultural outlet for adults and kids. But it's nice to be home after 4 years. It's a long time to be away.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking a little bit before the show about the challenge of coming home after, and what is home? Is home still there?
It is. It's interesting, and it's sort of that idea of, I've lived in Newport since I was 18 years old.
Right.
That's a long time. That's 34 years that I've been a resident of Newport. But when you go away for 4 years, that's a significant amount of time. And it was 4 years also during COVID.
Right.
And you come back and it's a new place, and you have to kind of find your footing and find your place in a community that you know so well, but you're also kind of an outsider again.
Right.
So this is a little bit of my way of finding my footing, reestablishing my ties with the community, with teaching, with, giving back in form of bringing art to the community and helping with organizations that are protecting a place that I'm a homeowner on the shores of, and a view that my kids have grown up on, and I want it to be around for generations to come, for my great-grandkids to come home to Vermont and enjoy.
So you have adult kids now?
I do, who have all flown the coop, and none of them are in Vermont anymore.
Right.
I have twin boys who are 26.
Wow.
One in North Carolina and one in New Mexico. And then I have a daughter who's 24 who's down in Boston.
What do they think of your nomadic lifestyle?
They are amazing supporters of what I do. And
So cool.
I have been a single parent since my kids were very young. And so they were kind of raised by this wild, independent artist mom. Who instilled in them, how much money you make isn't the most important thing in life. It's doing the thing you're passionate about. And in turn, as adults, they have now become super supportive of the wild, crazy things that I'm doing and the ideas that I come up with, because they know that I sacrificed a lot, for a couple of decades, because they were my main priority.
Right.
And this was second. And now we're finding that balance of parenting adult kids and being able to do some of those things that I maybe didn't do in my 20s.
What are they doing with their creative energy?
Interesting. So all in different ways. My daughter is also an artist and an art lover. She went the route of, she's a beautiful writer and a photographer and printmaker, but she's an art historian. So she just got her master's degree in art history and curation. She's currently working at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston, and just finished up her master's degree in art history. My son John is a musician. He's a singer and he plays several instruments, but he's a communication guy. He's a people person, and that's really relationship building. He walks in a room and he becomes the center of the room, and he's working in sports marketing down in Raleigh, North Carolina. And then my son Chris is, you know, he loves the outdoors, he loves the environment. He gets that piece from me in his worry about natural places.
Right.
He'd rather be outdoors than indoors. He's working in Taos, New Mexico, for Taos Ski Valley, and he's an assistant manager at the Blake Hotel, which is one of the first LEED Gold Standard environmental hotels in the country.
Cool.
And so he's really worried about the environment, but he's also a hospitality people person and creating experience for people to responsibly recreate in the outdoors.
And not destroy the water table any further, which is New Mexico's big issue.
Exactly. So they all have their kind of, their little piece of me they're carrying forward, but definitely in their own way.
So they've had your encouragement to go off and do their own thing too, whatever that means.
Exactly.
Find your passion and follow it.
Exactly. And no, I'm very proud of them. I'm always a mom first. I'm an artist second, because they're my greatest achievement for sure.
Their artwork, they really are. So you describe yourself as a visual artist as opposed to a quote painter or a whatever other medium. So that sort of implies to me that you use multiple media.
I do. I think because I've been a teaching artist for so long, and I'm a teacher, but I'm a forever learner. I'm a forever student of the arts. I'm a painter, but I'm also a printmaker. I'm a collage and mixed media artist. I love figure drawing. I love abstraction as much as I love representation. If you go on my website, you'll realize a lot of my work is quite abstract. And I work on that full spectrum from representational to abstract. And I work in a lot of different ways, and I usually have those happening simultaneously. You know, if I'm working on something like this, I also have a watercolor going on. I also have, you know, some sort of a collage paper, throw everything, including the kitchen sink, into it, kind of a piece going on at the same time. Or I'm learning a new material or a new media because I want to share it with students.
So you include students in your own learning process?
Absolutely. And I think every good teacher knows that you learn as much from your students as your students learn from you. And sometimes you learn more. Absolutely. And it challenges you to never be standing still, to not let the grass grow under your feet, because you're constantly wanting to grow and learn and change to keep up with young people. And what they care about and what they're passionate about and how you connect with them.
When you're focusing your energy, and it's energy, on the lake, what is it you're looking for? What is it that you want to convey?
You know, it's interesting because I feel like this is, you know, our lake is this hidden precious gem, and we love it that way. But at the same time, it is sort of this hidden thing, and it is something we take for granted, and we forget how rare of a treasure it is. So, you know, I think every once in a while we drive back from the Derby Road and we have one of those awe moments, and we have to pull over on the side of Shattuck Hill. Or we're driving through town and we look up the lake at the state office building and we realize, I need to pull in and drive down to the gateway for a minute. And I think we all do that. I hope we all do that.
I think we all do that.
But what we don't do, you know, is rig up our kayak as a floating art studio and go float in a cove for 3 hours and see it from that vantage point that maybe fishermen get to see in the early morning, or the ducks see, or if you're lucky enough to be a person who owns a boat on the lake. Not all of us, very few of us, have the option, the opportunity to see the lake from the water view on a regular basis. And so I wanted to kind of shine a light on lots of different viewpoints. And it might be, the show's going to have viewpoints if you live on the lake, you're going to recognize views that you see from your house that aren't my view. But I probably floated out past your view. I got a lot of exercise in my arms this summer with my kayak. But also views maybe you've never seen of the lake. You know the familiar ones, but you don't know some of the views that you're going to see in this show, and how amazing this space is, and how it's home to a lot of people, it's home to a lot of animals. It's such a vital natural resource as far as the water and the watershed, and all of the water that, it's more than just the lake, it's all of those bodies of water that flow into the lake as well, that you might be connected with, even if you don't live on the shores of Mount Magog. And it's going to take a village, it's going to take an army, it's going to take all of us to protect this place that we can keep enjoying it and living here.
And the lack of awareness that the watershed in this area flows north, that 4 rivers flow into Mount Magog and continue flowing north, and that Shabrook drinks out of the lake. This is their reservoir. And yet we watch all this crud, for want of a better technical term, going into it, and without any awareness that we're poisoning ourselves and the environment.
Exactly. And it's 100% choices we are making that are causing this to happen. And I think something happened this summer between the floods and, the different times when our lake was just inhabitable for, us to be using it. People who are unaware of any issues about the lake all of a sudden realized, oh, I can swim in Willoughby, but I can't swim in Mount Magog. Why is that? And they started asking those questions. And it started some of those conversations that we need to be having more of, well, let me educate you for 2 minutes about the watershed and about the direction rivers flow and what's happening right now and why this is happening, not just that you're inconvenienced that you've got to drive down the road to go for a swim.
Yeah, and that's sometimes a hard concept. And then that ties into well, somebody needs to fix it. Well, I'm sorry, the only person to fix it is you and me and everybody else. We all have our part in it. And I look at some of the absurdity of people clear-cutting down to the lake so that they have an uninterrupted view. But what is that doing to the shoreline, to the riparian barrier? I mean, how dumb are we? And the answer sometimes is pretty dumb.
I think Vermont has a wonderful tradition. And part of what we love is that people have lived here for generations and generations. And people have lived in the same house for generations and generations. We need to apply that to the lake. We need to stop thinking about how is it affecting us right now and think about the generations to come, of your family, of other people's families.
Is this the legacy we want for our grandchildren and great-grandchildren? A poisoned lake.
And we need to do the work now and not hand it over to them in a state of disrepair that they can't fix.
And one of the other summer issues has been about wake boats. I mean, are we crazy? Apparently we are. We really are.
Oh my goodness.
We think about all we need to enjoy in the moment, and apparently flying at some crazy speed is what we need to enjoy in the moment without any awareness of what we're doing to this.
Exactly.
I mean, the tranquility and the beauty in that will be gone because we've allowed gargantuan waves to slam into the shoreline.
And the impact it has on
the loons,
the wildlife that are living in.
And the small fish that breed at the shoreline. They're not just there to be slammed onto the shore.
And for the, the person in their kayak.
Well, that's me as well. And I kayak with swimmers, marathon swimmers, as well as being a swimmer. It's a big deal. It's a big deal swimming and kayaking in water that you can see is so polluted.
It is. It is. And when you're really out there and you're spending hours upon end out there, and you're working on a painting out there, and you're in the quiet and you're listening and you're watching and you're observing and you're smelling.
That's a big deal.
And you're seeing what is floating by. And as you paddle, you're seeing the change in the water.
Right.
You can't unsee it.
No, you can't. And then as you come around Cove Island and you see the eagle just sitting on the rock there, just watching, and you think, it's your water we're destroying here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I hope, I hope this show is going to bring a variety of people together. I hope it's going to bring people who are interested in art. I hope it's going to bring people who are interested in our town and, the viability of our town and our lake. I hope it's going to bring water warriors and people who are already involved in these organizations, and let these people intermingle with each other. And look at some beautiful art, yes. Hopefully buy some beautiful art.
And you've picked a location that's overlooking
the lake. That's the plan, and that's why I wanted that location. I didn't want to have this show, apart from... I had, lots of options outside of town to have this show, and I'm like, how could I have this show not on the shores of the lake?
Exactly.
So it's 3 days only, so you got to mark your calendar. But there are
there all 3.
But there are a few different events. There's an opening reception. There'll be beer and wine and refreshments from 5:30 to 7:30 on Wednesday, the 18th.
Served by the Belvedere, La Belvedere.
Served by La Belvedere, absolutely.
Their food and drink is fabulous.
And so that'll be a great event, and I hope everyone comes. Jump and Memphremagog Watershed will have tables there with information that you can learn more. And again, a percentage of all the proceeds is going to them. So it's a great cause.
Yes, it is.
And Thursday and Friday, it'll have gallery hours from 11 to 6. And Thursday, I'm doing a lunchtime chat with the artist. So if you work downtown or you get a lunch break around noon, come on down and see me then. And then I've also invited, all the local schools.
I was going to ask that.
Yes, so I have reached out to all the local art departments, but anyone who sees this, if you are teaching science, if you're teaching whatever, if you're teaching 4th grade, bring your kids down. I will be there from 11 to 6. Contact me, and I would love to host school groups to come not only learn about my work, but learn about the lake as well.
Yeah, you're unusual for an artist. You're good at marketing.
I'm learning. I don't think any artist is good at marketing. Well, I'm learning to be good at marketing.
Trust me, you're better than most. Sweeping generalization here. So many artists have amazing ideas of, obviously with their work, and what, quote, needs to happen. But to get it from the canvas or the piece of wood to somewhere where they can include groups, that's a real challenge.
Thank you.
But you've really thought that one through. That's fabulous.
Thank you. And maybe some of it comes from also being a teacher.
Yes.
And also being a mom. And, all of those life skills you kind of gain along the way.
You've brought all your networking skills into bringing this event together.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
No, that's great.
Thank you. Well, I hope that it's well attended. I hope we can bring some awareness and maybe get people involved that have never been involved or didn't know how to get involved.
Right.
Or we're kind of waiting for someone else to take up the torch. We all have to take up the torch.
We have no choice.
Yeah.
If we want to leave anything that's worth having.
Exactly.
That's really wonderful. Thank you so much for coming in today. And I am so looking forward to this event. And I'm expecting to be involved with the tabling, but also I would like to be involved with some of the other parts, as well as just looking at beautiful work.
Well, thank you for having me, and I'm so glad you'll be there.
I will.
And you're going to come, and I promise you there's, you know, there's a whole variety of price points. Don't think that this art show is, oh, I would love to come, but I won't be able to afford anything. There's large-scale pieces, obviously. There's smaller-scale pieces. There are, you know, fine art reproductions that are at a lower price point. So there's really a way that you can get involved and contribute and take home a beautiful piece of artwork, hopefully for, you know, the holidays are coming. There's good reason to buy art.
There's always good reasons to invest in art.
Exactly, exactly.
Anyway, thank you.
Thank you so much.